G'day, welcome to the Starting Point series. This is the very beginning where we try to get into the right mindset and we start to know what to look at and what to look for. So in our startup series, it's very important from the beginning that you learn what the right mindset is and what our goal is in approaching the first few modules. In this startup, I explain from the beginning how I look at a horse when they come into the arena. And of course, our goal with the whole method is to be able to create a good management system for the horse, a system where the horse is able to begin to manage himself. So from the start, we look at a horse coming into the arena and we decide from that image, from looking at the horse, how much they are managing themselves and how much is being managed by the person. And of course, the part that is being managed by the person is the information that the horse does not yet have about himself and how he can manage himself. From this start point, we know then how we are going to start to apply the first few modules. We start to be able to read how the horse is. Is it a horse that's really sensitive? Is it a horse that's really maybe not so sensitive? How the horse is biomechanically in the body. Do they have a good awareness of their body and where they're putting themselves? And where is the starting point of how we can begin to create a dialogue with that horse so he can begin to learn what he needs to learn from the very start. So what's really important when we begin is that we start to look at the horse for how he is. Because of course, as we all know, every horse has a story, but the real truth is coming from the horse. So when we can learn and understand from the beginning the right mindset we have to be able to view and understand the horse, that we're able to view the horse in that moment, that we don't have a preconceived idea about the story. And when I talk about stories, that's of course the story, the history, what's happened before with the horse, that we often tell ourselves through previous incidences or a certain weakness or a certain problem that a horse has. The horse is coming with this story that he is horse shy, that he is spooky, that he's lazy, any kind of problem that the horse might have. It's really important that we start from the beginning in really seeing the horse for how he is on that day, so that we don't come to the horse and begin to work with a preconceived idea of maybe how we should start to respond and react because of the story. The only way to create a new positive story from the horse is to work in the moment, not what happened yesterday and not what might happen tomorrow, but what can happen right now in this very moment with the horse on that day that you're working with him. So the important thing, of course, also about the right mindset is getting over that thought of maybe thinking that this is just the way the horse is. If he has a certain problem, and a horse that's maybe had those symptoms for a long time, it's very easy for us to start by working with a horse and having the mindset of, okay, this is the way he is, this is the way he's always been, and maybe there's no chance of that going to change. And of course, if we're starting with this mindset, then you close all the doors of opportunity for that horse's future to change. So it's really important that we're not starting with that story and that thought that this is the way the horse is, because we don't want to close off that opportunity for that horse to change. And we are not then really present in the moment to know exactly how we need to respond and implement the exercises in the module. I always try to reflect on my own experiences, and for an example of this kind of mindset, when I first came to the Netherlands, I opened my first new, quite large stable, and in a very short time, I had 30 stables and maybe 27 boxes were filled with horses by the stallion Jazz. And of course, all of these horses with this particular breed were coming with a similar kind of problem. But of course, when you work with a lot of horses with the same breeding, with the same similar story, you can quite easily come to that situation thinking you have to operate in the same way. But what worked best for me was that when I came to each horse without the preconceived idea, without knowing the story, that for me allowed me to treat every horse as an individual. And when you can treat every horse as an individual, you'll find exactly the right kind of pattern and the right kind of feeling and the right way of being able to create this dialogue that really fits that individual, not the dialogue you'll create that fits the story or maybe the breed, because he's by this stallion, he will react like this. So the horses also feel, if they have that individual contact and that you're able to really find out the way that they receive energy, the way they want to draw energy, you really will start to feel the meaning of the exercises more, rather than we get maybe stuck in going through the patterns and it becomes a pattern and not something we're doing with meaning for that particular horse. So now I have a question for you guys. A really good exercise for finding out the truth about your horse is to be able to write down what you think your story is about your horse, a short version, and that you can analyze your story about your horse, why he is like he is. And then we want to go through the process of finding out, is your story true? Is it that the story is about the symptoms that your horse is showing? Or do you have the story really of the cause that, of course, creates the symptoms? A lot of the time our stories are made up of the symptoms, of the things that our horses are reacting and doing wrong. But what's most important is that we find out the cause, the why the symptoms are there. And when we find out the why, the part of the story in which the horse is missing in their own management system, and when the horse is able to manage that part, the cause of their insecurities, which creates the symptoms, then you start to make real progress.